Fantastic. Okay, so without any further ado, our own Joe Miller. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. We're going to begin with 3 readings, and fortunately we have 3 readers to do them. And I believe Monica's doing the first one, is that right?
No.
I believe it's Shobha.
Yeah.
Oh, Shobha doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready? I can go ahead. Okay.
Please.
Yeah. As one progresses in Jnana Yoga, one finds conceptions arising, which, though one is conscious of them, one cannot express nor yet formulate into any sort of mental picture. As time goes on, these conceptions will form into mental pictures. This is a time to be on guard and refuse to be deluded with the idea that the newfound and wonderful picture must represent reality. It does not. As one works on, one finds the once admired picture growing dull and unsatisfying and finally fading out or being thrown away. This is another danger point because for the moment, one is left in a void without any conception to support one, and one may be tempted to revive the cast-off picture for want of a better to cling to. The true student will, however, work on unconcerned, and presently further formless gleams come, which again in time give rise to a larger and more beautiful picture than the last. But the learner will now know that no picture will ever represent the truth. This last splendid picture will grow dull and fade like the others. And so the process goes on until at last the mind and its pictures are transcended and the learner enters and dwells in the world of no form, but of which all forms are narrowed reflections. H.P. Blavatsky.
Thank you, Shobha. Beautifully read. And I think, Monica, you're...
Yes, thank you. A poem by Jalaluddin Rumi. I am neither Christian, nor Jew, nor Gab, nor Muslim. I am not of the East, nor of the West, nor of the land, nor of the sea. I am not of nature's mint, nor of the circling heavens. I am not India, nor of China, not of Bulgaria, nor of Saksin. I am not the kingdom of Iraq, nor of the land of Khorasan. My place is the placeless. My trace is the traceless. 'Tis neither body nor soul, for I belong to the soul of the beloved. I have put duality away. I have seen that the two worlds are one. I seek one. I know one. I see one. I call one.
Thank you, Monica. Lovely. And we have, I think, Donna Moore may be reading this one from Chief Joseph for us. Are you there, Donna, and are you unmuted?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't unmuted. I'll start again. Treat all men alike. Give them the same laws. Give them all an even chance to live and grow. All men were made by the same great spirit chief. They are all brothers. The earth is the mother of all people, and all people should have equal rights upon it. Chief Joseph.
Thank you very much, Tona. Well, good afternoon, friends. I'm so glad we can gather here a few days before November 17th, which, as you know, is the anniversary of the founding of the modern Theosophical movement, and a day which is held dear to all Theosophists. I think before I start, I'd just like to hear from Truth or Jonathan. I want to set an alarm for myself, so I have a mechanical something to beat me over the head. How much time do I have?
You have as much as you want. Just if you talk longer, there's not as much discussion time. If you talk shorter, there's more discussion time.
What time does the meeting go till, Truth?
6 p.m. at the latest.
6 p.m. So really, if I could talk for no more than an hour, that's good, right?
Yes.
And hopefully less than that. Okay. I just want on the extreme. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, as you know, our theme today is the eternal religion. And the English phrase, the eternal religion, is a translation of the Sanskrit term Sanatana Dharma. And Dharma, of course, means law or religion. And so Sanatana Dharma is the eternal Dharma. The word religion in English comes from the Latin re ligare, or to bind back. Ligare is related to the word ligament, having to do with binding things together. So a true religion binds the hearts of men together. It also binds in the sense of it constrains our animal and divisive tendencies. It gives guardrails to life. It gives guardrails to a culture. True religion gives practices and beliefs and customs and rituals. It gives cosmogonies that talk about the origins of life and origins of the religion. And therefore it gives identity and direction. It helps to define the sacred, and therefore it becomes a basis for value, and therefore for laws and morals. At the same time, every religion is a balance between the ideal and the actual, between the spirit and the letter. Every religion is a balance between timeless truth and what happens in time with culture and language. A religion is a balance between the form and the formless, as we just heard Rumi speak about. When the spirit is in ascendance, then a religion is vital and creative and inspired. And there is a grace that runs through it, and it is progressive and forgiving and allowing. When the letter tips the balance, then the formal aspects solidify, and a religion becomes often self-righteous, and bigotry takes the lead, and money and power, idolatry, superstition. Personal fear results in doctrines of personal salvation, which are themselves divisive, as Theosophy points out. And re legare, instead of binding men together, ends up blinding men together, and binding the power to think instead of giving liberty of thought, erasing liberty and for the sake of conformity. And I think there's a line from St. Paul's about, brethren, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your minds. So powers of conformity and formalization are the shadowy side of religion. People become mesmerized and deferential towards the power of the collective, towards the grandeur of edifice. If some of you remember the 1960s movie about called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, about St. Francis of Assisi, and one of the important themes was this notion that the true religious spirit, which represented by the poverty of St. Francis, was completely clouded over by the grandiosity and the money and ostentation of the church. As far as conformity goes, Emerson said, God does not save souls in lumps. And that is true. And of course, some of the very highest psychic voltage that occurs in society and human life manifests relative to things that are done in the name of absolute truth. And that voltage becomes explosive, as we know, as we witness in the terrible religious conflicts that plague the world. So Theosophy gives us a perspective on religion itself, while encouraging us to make a distinction between religion and eternal truth. And remember H.P. Blavatsky's question, is Theosophy a religion? She answers that it is not a religion. But she says, enigmatically, that does not preclude Theosophy from being religion itself. The religion, so Theosophy is not a religion, but it is religion itself. Well, this would sound absurd and very arrogant if by Theosophy she were referring to a particular philosophical movement, or a specific set of doctrines and writings, or a group of lodges and members and practices at these lodges in a particular place and time. But that's not what she was referring to. And we know that by Theosophy, she meant that abstract wisdom about man and nature and deity, which transcends every formulation, even while being partially present in all of them. And this is, sometimes we distinguish this by the ancient word Theosophia, which is really like a synonym to Sanatana Dharma, if properly understood. These both, they merely give a name to this ideal wisdom that is nameless. Chinese wisdom speaks of the Tao that can't be named. The French poet Lamartine wrote that an ideal remains only true as it remains at a distance. A distance from what? A distance from materialization. The moment we think we've captured an ideal and we possess it now, and we give it a name, we give it our name, we identify it with our sect, our race, our religion, that ideal ceases to be true. Ideals are navigational stars that must remain in the night sky. What the night of what? The night of reverence, the night of contemplation. The star to every wandering bark, wrote Shakespeare in a sonnet, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Ideals are beings from another plane. They may visit flatland as they pass through, but they can never be contained or defined by the two-dimensional shadow they temporarily cast on the undulating surface. HPB's very clarifying and helpful statement about progress in Jnana Yoga, which, thank you, Shobha, was read out at the beginning, describes the mental life of the evolving student as the student passes through a long series of finite conceptions. Every conception is a kind of world, felt nebulously at first, then cohering and taking definite form, participating in truth, but never circumscribing it. Logically, what is relatively true is necessarily relatively false. After some time, the limitations of the formulation or the picture are realized. And then that image must be set aside. And one enters the nebulous stage again, anticipating new germinal conceptions that have yet to be realized. And the process, step by step, goes on, veil upon veil. It cannot be shortcutted or circumvented, but the process is traversed with greater ease if we employ two important strategies of practical psychology. First, H.P. Blavatsky says, do not get intoxicated by the satisfaction that comes with understanding, with any particular picture of truth. Keep vigilant, keep a critical distance. Recognize and enjoy the light, the usefulness, and the relevance, but know that this too shall pass. The Buddha spoke, of course, of the metaphor of the raft, that the raft is useful relative to the river, but that same raft becomes a hindrance once one is on the other shore. And we could think of an item of clothing, like a pair of shoes. I happen to be wearing a pair of shoes from Skechers that Zappos delivered to me yesterday, and they're very fine and they're very comfortable. But I'm not deluded into thinking they're my final pair of shoes. I know that they're not going to last forever. They're going to wear out, or my feet won't outgrow them. But they're just a pair of shoes. The second strategy H.P. Blavatsky points out is that we have to learn to face the void. We have, without going back, without trying to go back and resuscitate what is no longer relevant. We have to summon the courage and the faith to dwell in mental and emotional states of uncertainty and incompletion. We have to dwell, but we need to keep moving. We have to abide, but move through. The phases of undoing, we could say the autumn of the spirit, are as important for the regeneration of our inner nature as the season of autumn is to outer nature. The process goes on, H.P. Blavatsky concludes, until at last the mind and its pictures are transcended, and the learner enters and dwells in the world of no form, but of which all forms are narrowed reflections. The chrysalis transforms into the butterfly, so to speak. It's an entirely different realm than climbing on your belly and eating leaves. It seems to me that one of the great benefits of the teaching of Theosophy is that it gives us an understanding of what we're speaking of here. It helps us to make a distinction between relative and absolute truth, but a conception that includes both. As in the Rumi poem, he sees one. He has put duality away. We begin to understand the process involves both of these, and they're not separate. Now, this process, which is framed by HPB as phases of development for a student, can also be seen collectively. In the place of concepts and mental pictures, we can think about the rise and fall of cultures, or the rise and fall of civilizations. Within the histories of particular religions and sciences, we can identify phases of birth, growth, maturity, decay, and then reform, Renaissance. We can see this too in respect to the evolution of the God idea, which has a bearing on what I want to talk about next. The eternal religion is also the name of an enigmatic and fascinating document, which came from the Theosophical journal Hermes in August of 1988. And this series, this Aquarian series, as you know, is always published with a page from that almanac. And the quote, the lead quote for the week under the phrase eternal religion is in fact from that document. Now, this document is unusual because it's the longest item that ever appeared in a single issue of the journal Hermes. Hermes ran for 14.75 years. The eternal religion takes up 34 pages and is nearly 7,000 words. Actually, it's slightly more than 7,000 words. It is not typical expository or discursive prose, but it is pages of numbered statements. It almost looks like one of early Wittgenstein or something when you glance at it. These aphorisms, numbered aphorisms, what it calls articles. There are exactly 500 of these aphorisms. In an intriguing and mysterious footnote, it says, found in rough manuscript at Tirupati Temple in Andhra Pradesh, India, on February 8th, 9th, 1988. So this was published 6 months later. Now, who found it? What happened to the original manuscript? What is the original source? Who wrote it? What was involved in polishing the rough manuscript to the finished document? We have all of that is completely unknown to the speaker. Probably not unknown to the universe, but unknown to me. And in a sense, it's not relevant because it's just a fascinating document and it's such a joy to read. One thing that we have now that we didn't have in 1988 is Wikipedia. And so it was kind of a joy to look up Tirupati Temple in Andhra Pradesh. I had a suspicion Tirupati Temple would have something to do with Vishnu, and my suspicion was correct. Wikipedia, which is not the final truth on anything, but it's good for basic facts. It speaks of the Tirupati Temple as the temple dedicated to Venkateshvara, who is a form of Vishnu, who is believed to have appeared on earth to save mankind from trials and troubles of Kali Yuga. Hence, the place is also known as Kali Yuga Vaikuntha. And the deity here is referred to as Kali Yuga Pratyaksha Daivam. It's also true that Venkata is a hill in Andhra Pradesh, but it is also true that Venkata means destroyer of sins. Now, why did I have a suspicion that this would be a Vaishnava temple? Because the lead quote in the document says, "We are descendants of dreams. We all belong to a single tribe of dreamers." And it's an English translation of Sanskrit. I don't know where the original Sanskrit comes from. And you may be familiar, one of the depictions of many of Vishnu is that he is reclining in sleep upon the serpent of eternity, Adisesha, and that the universe arises from him in his dreams, from his dreams. So we live in the dream of Vishnu. So, as I said, the form of this document is not expository prose, but it's these numbered aphorisms, which are called articles of truth in the document. They're delivered by the self-identified dream god to humanity. They take the form of a revelation or of a proclamation. The dream god is not identified by any other name. And to give you a sense of this, how this starts, which is probably the best way just to hear it, and I hope some of you have read this. I am the dream god, saying to you in simple words, the one and only truth, which is right and good forevermore. All your everyday perceptions have been my media, and your emotions and feelings are the meanings thereof. All I need of you is fidelity toward your own perceptions, feelings, and emotions, for they are my voices within you. You call forth the revelation, for you have ever tried to be candid, considerate, conscientious, resilient, and therefore right and good. I am telling you the whole truth instantaneously. It will imprint itself upon you, recover it with all your might. So that's how it begins. And you can see it's given as these authoritative pronouncements made with brevity, and often, as you get into it, with bluntness, but with unmistakable, what we might call prophetic power. And if any of you love to read Whitman, you know that areas of Whitman's poetry is like this prophetic muse comes through him, especially the poem starting from Pomino. There's in the words, there's much use of iteration. There's parallel structure. So it has a form like poetry or song. There is also logic to it. There are strings of kinds of arguments that run through series of the aphorisms. The aphorisms can be seen in series. You can see themes like music arising again and again in a rhythmic way. You will find parallel structures where something is discussed in a positive light, and then it's discussed in its shadows are discussed in a parallel structure later on. It's a fascinating document looked at even just from a structural standpoint. But what do these 500 aphorisms look upon? What is the content of them? Well, it's very vast. One of the things it begins with is talking about what we're meeting here today, speaking about the Sanatana Dharma, clarifying what that means exactly. There are discussions of theology, of evolution and Maya, of evolution of religion and of the God idea, laws of the inner life, psychology and emotional well-being. The aphorisms deal with love and marriage, interestingly, of disease and health and causation, of perversity and conversion or correction. And that's very interesting. Literally, perversity means to invert, versus, like universe, convert. And there are very interesting aphorisms about turning back around. They describe markers of moral and spiritual decline, as well as markers of ascendancy and health. And these are put both in individual contexts and in social and political contexts. In many ways, that parallel structure runs through it, reminds us of the Gita about the discussions of the divine and demonic natures. Finally, the articles of truth speak of themselves. And in the last half dozen articles, they give a prophetic vision of their own status and their own future. So why don't we look then at these aphorisms that have to do with Sanatana Dharma, with the eternal religion and with deity. And I don't know if you've got the document with you. You could follow along, but I will read these out as well. This material comes right at the very start, clarifying the idea right away, with picking up where we left off with article number 7. It reads, "Prophets were right when they affirmed that God exists. God was their greatest discovery and not their gratuitous invention. Henceforth remember, I have been formed into what I am. Henceforth remember, I need to be reformed from age to age. Henceforth remember, I grow as a baby grows into an adult. Previous gods are myself at successive stages of unfoldment. Henceforth remember, God means the presence of God, just as your father means your father as he is now. I, the dream God, am your only God. I am the harbinger of the new religion. I am also its child and nursling." Just to stop for a moment, I want to continue to read about the new religion, but just notice right off, this is a very different God than we might be familiar with other God ideas. that this God is not eternally there from the beginning, but he has been formed into what he is, that he grows as a baby grows. Well, that's not normally with, especially in the West, God is perfect and complete and eternal. And so whoever this dream God is very different than that. And the evolution of the God idea that previous gods are himself at a given stage. Now, I, the dream God, am your only God. Does that sound a little, authoritarian and heavy-handed? Actually, one needn't read it that way. For one thing, there are very strong warnings about authoritarianism later in the document, but it's probably more a statement of pantheism, which is discussed later on, that there is nothing else but the dream that we're involved in. And the cosmos is a dream, and we are all dreamers within that dream. And also the benevolence and generosity of this speaker represents the voice of our true self. In that sense, we could say it's our only God. So then there's this series about the new religion. And you can see how musical this is. You can see the use of repetition. The new religion is the eternal religion, as we'll say. The new religion is the ever new religion, ever new and therefore eternal. I am the harbinger of the new religion. I am also its child and nursling. Is he going to found a new religion? A new particular religion, or is he giving a renewed view of the eternal religion? He says, hence I ordain the new religion above my sway. All other religions have been the affairs of God, but the new religion is the affair of none. It came before God and honored God. So here we have a religion that predates the God. Hence, it includes all religions. The new religion is the religion behind all religions. So there we have the Sanatana Dharma, right? The new religion is the one secular religion for all. We need not get thrown by the word secular. It's not, secular may mean something that's not subject to religious jurisdiction, but that's only one meaning. There's another important meaning that you find still persisting in astronomy, that has to do with occurring or persisting over an indefinitely long period. So the one secular religion is that which, it's like the tone of the Om, it ever is. I alone can give you the definition of the new religion that sees me and holds me pure, perfect, and immaculate. And then he goes into this kind of dialectical and hermeneutic stuff about knowledge. The new religion involves knowledge, not belief, right? The new religion is a dialectical process in which all branches of knowledge are united in a single stream of knowledge. The new religion is a hermeneutic vessel in which all knowledge is enshrined in the supreme gnosis of the dream God. The new religion is the method whereby the deductions of the supreme gnosis go far beyond the present mode of knowing into the future, making the goal conceivable. The new religion is the alchemical process, whereby any item of new knowledge is assimilated into the unified system of knowing after due alteration of the previous corpus. The new religion is the magical means whereby the latest knowledge is made practicable for even the commonest man, woman, or child. Thus, the new religion is an ever new or eternal religion. And there it says parenthetically, Sanatana Dharma. He says a little below that, the new religion came forth without me. On its way, I emerged out of it. True to itself, it is still detached from me. I love the new religion's detachment, says the dream God, which preserves my health and promotes my progressive unfoldment. All previous gods are different facets of myself and therefore must be revered, etc. So this is very interesting because Sanatana Dharma can mean the eternal law, the eternal truths about nature, about the human purpose, about what's truly meaningful and edifying to human life. These are formulated again and again in particular cultures. And this dream God is saying that that eternal truth is above him, that he's in some sense a child or a baby from this eternal law. And then there's these aphorisms about that our formulation of deity affects how we manifest and unfold as spiritual beings, as human beings. It's the God is proportional. Number 36. God is proportional to the formulation of God. As you grasp me more and more, your formulation of God deepens until it coincides with that of the dream God. Well, that sounds a little bit like those images that H.P. Blavatsky had us going through, that we advance through a series of ideals that include who we are, what is life for, what is the universe, more and more and more, until there's eventually a merging with the formless truth. When your formulation of God falls short of God, the living presence of God shrinks in proportion to the former. And this brings about a shrinkage in your life. I am the consummate solution. In me, you find solutions to all problems. I am the consummate answer. In me, you will find answers to all questions. I am so fundamental to you that I've become an organ deep beneath your skin. And there are these discussions. Listen, I am the foundation on which you stand as an edifice. You are me at your point, and all beings are myself at their points. So this deity is immanent. It is living or dreaming through us. And this dream God is trying to reveal the laws of entering the tribe of dreamers, as he says. There's this important distinction, and I'll talk about some of the main terms here, but an important distinction between the dreamers and the brooders that the document makes. So that we are the dream God at our point, and our growth and our realization is in proportion to how we grasp that as our identity. Beings differ because of the differences of their notions of God. Beings differ because of the differences of their gods. Thus, you evolve or erode as I evolve or erode within you. Therefore, the concept and form of your God is important. Your concept of God and the corresponding form of your God make and represent your foundation, and all that springs from it stands upon it. And then he goes into this rhapsody about when I, the dream God, am your foundation. And this is very characteristic of many strings of aphorisms that go 10 or 15 aphorisms at a time in the document. When I, the dream God, am your foundation, you are blessed with the highest happiness, progress, and peace. When I, the dream God, am your foundation, you are blessed with the greatest skills, abilities, and successes. When I, the dream God, am your foundation, you are blessed with the most attractive and effective language, cadence, gesture, countenance, calligraphy, and styles. It's very Whitman-esque, really. When I, the dream God, am your foundation, you are blessed with the greater wealth, health, and life. So this is the thing, is how do we find virtue? How do we find virtue in the old sense of strength and power within us? Realization, understanding. According to the dream God who has left this revelation, it's through us grasping the dream God's presence within us that becomes a foundation, and that becomes, as he says, an organ within us. So the dream God becomes a foundation within us, and then upon the dream God forms these organs, he says. So the first one is poetry or dream, number 66. Upon me, deep beneath your skin, forms an organ, poetry or dream. And from that comes your feeling of wonder and awe. From that comes your feeling of fascination and ecstasy. From that comes your capacity for creative imagination. And upon that forms another organ, the goal. From that comes your aspirations. Thus, with me in sight, you are a dreamer on the path of truth. A dreamer is a denizen of heaven returning to paradise, on the path of truth. You have an infallible indicator within you to reveal your truest approach to the eternal God. It is the feeling of well-being. So that's a very important theme from start to end through all these, is this self-trust in our own feelings. So where do we get our guidance? Well, it was right there in the very second aphorism. Your everyday perceptions have been my media. Your emotions and feelings are the meanings thereof. All I need of you is what? Baptism, bar mitzvah, a family puja. No, all I need from you is fidelity towards your own perceptions, feelings, and emotions, for they are my voices within you. So the revelation of the dream God is that we are equipped, if we weren't so tangled and confused, deformed in our inner nature, we would be natural and simple and naive and childlike in a certain way, just as the voice of the silence or the Sermon on the Mount speaks about becoming the child again. There's a certain simplicity of heart and mind that the dream God is inviting us to attain, or that his presence helps us to attain. And this is what he says, right? You have the infallible indicator with you, this feeling of well-being. And so what corresponds then with this learning to listen to our feelings is what he calls original wrongs. So there's not original sin, but they're the original wrongs. And the original wrongs begin when we lose our inner simplicity to, as he says, believe what is before our eyes, and we lose touch with our feelings. And I think it's number 84. I begin to be beclouded the instant you do not believe your eyes. Then your foundation begins to crumble within you. Continued self-betrayal leaves me benighted, and your foundation crumbles within you. When I, the dream God, am beclouded, you begin to suffer and lose and suffer. When I, the dream God, am beclouded, your skills and abilities begin to decline, and success becomes rarer. When I, the dream God, am beclouded, your language, cadence, gesture, countenance, etc. So you can see here's an exact parallel structure to the whole series about when I, the dream God, am your foundation. But it begins with betraying our feelings, with self-betrayal, according to this revelation. And then there's a series of these original wrongs. So there's the first is you don't believe your eyes, and then in number 103, it's you're mistrusting your perceptions and feelings. In 151, it's the erection of facades. In 287, it's wickedness. In 363, it's perversity. And so there's this overall structure to those, just as there's this overall structure to these divine organs, so to speak, that are growing within us. And it's also interesting. You think that you want to take these organs of poetry or goal and dream that are growing beneath your skin as rectitude. He names these, but then the dream God tells us these aren't metaphorical. All are organs of flesh and blood. There's yes, and he says there's that's on 158, by the way, if you want to look that up later. And there's it, yes. And elsewhere, a little later in 229, he says, know that life and soul are aspects of body and are never different from the body, which is very curious. It reminds me very much of Whitman, who said, I've said that the soul is not more than the body and the body is not more than the soul. So that's one of the really important themes is these organs, these inner organs that are growing within us as we follow the path of the dreamer, unfold ourselves as dreamers on the path of the dream God. And then the opposite are these these wrongs, which are when the dream god becomes clouded within us. One of the great statements of dreamers and brooders is found in Aphorism 165. There's a little series there that it sort of sums up what had gone on before there, and it's a good place to look at in itself. Starting from 165. Thus, faith in your own perceptions, feelings, emotions, conceptions, reasons, and instincts makes you a dreamer with growing religion, God, dream, goal, righteousness, inquiry, uprightness, dignity, decisiveness, peace, memory, and destiny, all making you right, good, rich, and happy forevermore. But lack of faith in yourself, pretense, falsehood, make you a brooder, with growing confusion, doubt, guilt, apathy, stupidity, fear, dilemma, anxiety, repentance, boredom, despair, and superstition, all making you wrong, wicked, poor, and unhappy forevermore. Not a happy camper. The dreamer wears the charm of dream. The brooder wears the gloom of disease. No ornament can make a brooder beautiful. No blemish can make a dreamer ugly. For dream is the only ornament of beauty. There are only two castes, the dreamers and the brooders, in the lineages of dream and pretense. There are only two castes, the dreamers and the brooders, one healthy, the other diseased. There are only two species, the dreamers and the brooders, one stretching forward to supermanhood and the other falling backward to animalhood. There are only two relationships, one between dreamers and the other between brooders. Thus, any parent, brother, sister, son, daughter, grandparent, or grandchild is either a dreamer or a brooder. Thus, any of your neighbors or countrymen is either a dreamer or a brooder. Thus, all are not belonging to your family, place, or country are either dreamers or brooders. Now, lest you think that we're back in the Old Testament or the New Testament of revelations of dividing the goats from the sheep. There's this marvelous thing about it doesn't say the pivot, this conversion, turning around, that we preserve no matter, it doesn't matter for a brooder, we preserve this freedom to turn, just like this, the Shakers, the Shakers song, simple gifts, to turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. And and the Shakers were great furniture makers, and the Shakers would turn their wood, and as they turned their wood, it was an analogy for turning your soul, turning your moral life, shaping it. And of course, conversion, religious conversion means literally to turn around, just like Plato's prisoners, they have to turn around from the shadows to the light, even if it's painful. And he says in 179, as you can turn instantly from south to north while standing at the same point, you can change from a dreamer to a brooder, or a brooder to a dreamer, it can go both ways, in no time. So there is in this aphorism and others, this notion of a kind of instantaneous conversion, that there's some innate inner freedom within us, which we can't give up, which we can call upon, if we will. He says, but a brooder prefers to walk north to reach the south, even after billions of such steps have brought him no sign of the south. It is easier to sweat and toil for a life than to think for a moment. So apparently this is not by the sweat of your brow will you live. Thus, pretense is easy and naivete is difficult. Remember, pretense is the road to hell, and naivete